and welcome to today's bake in Cassie's Kitchen Creations. I'm Cassie, and here's today's creation. I will be preparing a 7-flavored pound cake. So this recipe calls for 3 cups of sugar, which I've already added to my mixing bowl, and it calls for 1 cup of butter, which is going to be 2 sticks, and they should be allowed to come to room temperature. It also calls for a 1/2 cup of shortening, which in today's bake, I'm going to use a Crisco shortening stick. And I baked another cake and I used 1/2 of this stick, so I know that this is going to be a 1/2 cup. So I'll add that in. And now what I need to do is cream the sugar, the butter, and the shortening until it becomes very fluffy. Again, this usually takes no more than 3 to 4 minutes. So I'm going to place the blender on stir, just so that it can start incorporating all of the ingredients. And all of this was allowed to come to room temperature, the shortening and the butter. Once it seems like it's all mixing well, I'm going to ramp the speed up on my mixer to 2. And from there, I'm going to just allow it to blend for 3 to 4 minutes. As you can see, I've already had everything laid out for today's preparation. So as far as the flour, it takes 3 cups of flour, sifted, and this is White Lily all-purpose, which is the light baking flour. And to the flour, I added 1 teaspoon of Rumford baking powder. This is a baking powder for those who don't like to use any of the other ones that have the metals in them. You can use the Rumford baking powder. Okay, so a teaspoon of the baking powder, and also and a teaspoon of the baking soda. All right, so that's already been incorporated into the flour. And also the person who I'm preparing this for asked for at least a pinch of salt. So I added a pinch of salt to it, and I took a whisk and I whisked it and I blended it all together. Okay. So we have about 2 more minutes on our creaming of the butter and the sugar and the shortening. This is going to be another epic bake. We have 1 minute to go. Seems to be creaming very well. Our time is up. As you can see, we have fluffiness. So the butter, sugar, and the shortening is creamed together very well. The next thing we're going to add is going to be the eggs. And to this bake, it requires 5 eggs. And the eggs must also be allowed to come to room temperature, okay? So I'm going to add them as usual, one at a time. And as I add them, I'm going to just place the blender on stir, just so that it breaks the yolk, and then everything seems to get incorporated. If you forget to take your eggs or your butter out to allow it to come to room temperature, all you have to do is place the eggs in the sink or in a bowl with some warm water for 15 minutes, and they'll come up to room temperature. If you on the butter, you just add your butter to the microwave and place it on like 10 seconds, and it'll come up to room temperature. You don't want to melt the butter, you just want it to be soft. Alright, so I have all of the eggs incorporated in. I'm just stirring it just to get a mix. And now I'm going to adjust the speed. And I adjusted it to 2. Okay, I'm going to ramp it up to 3, just for a very quick beat. Then I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to just go around the sides of my mixing bowl, because sometimes the sugar and butter and shortening will cling to your bowl, or you'll settle in a spot on the bottom. So I just move it around, fold it in, stir it real good, just going around the sides 2 or 3 times, and then also scraping the bottom, just making sure that everything is getting mixed. And as you can see, some of the shortening was resting on the side of the bowl. Alright, so I'll attach it back. Then I'll put it on stir, take it up to 2, and then I'll ramp it up to 3. So now we're ready to add the flour and the milk and flavor. So again, with this recipe, just like with all the other ones, I do everything alternatingly. I start with my flour and I end with flour. So I'll put in a cup of flour, just put it on stir. No need to ramp it up because no one wants a flour bath. Then I'll adjust it to 2 once the flour seems to be incorporated in. Now I'm going to add, the recipe calls for 1 cup of milk. This is whole milk that I'm using. You can use buttermilk or any other milk that's in your refrigerator. So you'll add half of the milk. You can use half and half, whole milk, 2% milk, cow's milk, goat's milk, whatever milk that's your preference, you can use that. So then I'll put it on stir. Just make sure that whatever milk you use, that is 1 cup. Then I'm going to adjust the speed to 2. Now I'm going to add my 2nd cup of flour, place it on stir, ramp my speed up to 2, and now I'm going to add the other half a cup of milk. last cup of flour. And as usual, you always have some in the fold of the bowl, so you just tap it in. Place the blender on stir, because you want to get everything incorporated. You don't want flour going everywhere. Nobody wants a flour bath. Then you ramp the speed up to 2. And now I'm going to add the 7 flavors. The first flavor is going to be my Watkins pure vanilla, and this is 1 teaspoon. And these flavors are per request. Usually when people want more flavors in their cake, they tell you which ones they prefer. The next one is going to be the Watkins lemon. And these are all pure flavors. The next one is going to be a butter flavor. My local store did not have the Watkins butter, so I have to use McCormick's butter, which is the next best thing. But I am strictly a Watkins person. I guess I have to order it online from Amazon. They also wanted an orange. So this is going to be a McCormick orange. This is Watkins pure almond. And each one of these is 1 teaspoon. And if someone asks, oh, can you taste all those flavors? Yes, you most certainly can. The next one is the rum. And the last one is going to be one of my favorites. It's going to be Anise. This has a wonderful smell and taste. Especially when it's the anise mixed with the rum and the almond. These 3 actually complement each other. And also the buttered rum. Alright, so now I have all the flavors in, and I'm going to adjust the speed to 3 on my mixer. And for this one, I'm just going to let it blend to make sure that everything gets incorporated in very well. I don't want to overbeat anything. So now I'm going to take my spatula, as I did before, and I just run it along the sides of my mixing bowl, from the top to the bottom, just folding everything in. And then I will scrape the bottom of the bowl. Sometimes people wait, they're transferring it from the mixing bowl to their baking pan, and they realize that the bottom part was a mixed well, and it's too late at that point. So I just scrape everything in, fold it in very well, just making sure that it's a good mix. I don't want a clumpy cake. And I also kind of scrape what's on my mixer back into the bowl, so that making sure that everything there is incorporated as well. There's no egg clinging onto this. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Alright, so now I'll place it back, and I'm going to adjust the speed to 1 to stir, 2 to mix, and 3 is my final speed here, and I'm just going to beat it. I'll give it 1 more minute on the beat, and while we're doing that, I'll go ahead and prepare the baking pan. So with this baking pan, it is the smooth one. This is one of my favorites. If someone wants the bump, they'll request it. So now I'm using the Pam Baker's spray. This is with flour. So again, I'm going to spray this very good. I'm going to spray it over my feet. Less mess to have to clean up. Always spray the pan very well, coating it, the bottom, the sides, as well as the flute. So I have sprayed my pan, coated it very well. Now I'm going to use my sugar. And again, this is the Domino sugar that I'm using. And I take it and I lightly sprinkle it around the bottom of the pan, around the flute. And the sugar helps it to release, but it also gives it a really, really nice, crunchy edges. Some people like it, some people don't. All of my customers seem to like it, okay? So I've got everything incorporated in. Put a little more sugar in the bottom here. Most people forget the flute, but your cake can stick to the flute as well. So now it's ready to be placed, transferred from the mixing bowl to the baking pan. On this one, I'm going to do a cold oven, so I haven't set my oven temperature yet. And cold oven just allows the leavening process because I'm baking from scratch and I am using all-purpose flour, and I'm adding the baking soda and the baking powder for the leavening process. So I'm going to do a cold oven, and the longer time, lower temperature, just allows that leavening process to take place longer. So you end up with a very fluffy and moist cake. If you cook them too fast on a high heat, sometimes you'll end up with a dry cake. So you need to make sure that you know your oven very well, because what works in my oven may not work in yours. So make sure you know your oven. So now I'm going to allow it to just flow in the pan. I just go back and forth, round and round in the pan, just letting it flow, just for even distribution. And when it seems like it's not flowing as good as I want it to, I just scrape down the sides of the bowl, allow it to flow in my baking pan. Try to get everything out. I just scrape my sides, scrape the bottom, and as you can see, the bottom is very creamy. There's no clumps and there's nothing left that wasn't mixed. Everything mixed very, very well. Don't forget to scrape down the sides of your mixing spoon or your spatula or whatever you're using to mix and do the transfer. I think I've gotten it all out. Okay. So now, as usual, I'm going to give it a good twist. And this just helps to even out the batter in the baking pan. And I'm going to tap it on my counter to remove the air bubbles. I'll give it another good twist. This will mix very well. There's very few air bubbles in this one. I'll tap it again. Okay. And with this one, I'm just going to run my spoon across the top of it. everything's level, everything's smooth. So now the cake is ready to be placed in the oven. So I'm going to open my oven door. I'm going to sit the cake flat and flush on the rack. With this one, it's flat, so you don't have to twist it around to find the leverage. It just sits right there perfect. Now I'm gonna set my oven temperature to 325, and I'm gonna press start. Again, this is called a cold oven bake. The lower temperature, longer time is going to allow the leavening process to really occur. And in doing that, you're going to end up with a very fluffy and a very moist cake every time. Right? So it takes about an hour and 20 minutes for this cake to bake at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to place you on a brief pause. I will pick you up when it's time to bring the cake out of the oven to cool on the cooling rack. Okay guys, I'm back and the cake is ready to be removed from the oven and allowed to cool for 10 minutes. So I will sit it and allow it to cool for 10 minutes, and then I will transfer it to a cake plate, and then I'm going to I'm going to prepare a glaze that has the same flavors that's in the cake, and I'm going to place that glaze on the cake once it completely cools. So once it's time to, once I transfer it to a cake plate, I'll pick you back up. Okay guys, so while the cake is cooking, I'm going to prepare a glaze for this one. This is going to be a different glaze than what I usually put on. So with this glaze, it's going to be 1 cup of sugar. And again, I use the Domino Pure Cane granulated sugar. And it's going to be a 1/2 cup of water. One cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of water, and now I'm going to add the flavor. Or as some people say, the extract. So again, it's going to be the exact same flavors that I placed in the cake. That's going to be 1 teaspoon of each one. And if you don't want the flavor to be too intense on the glaze, and you can do a 1/2 teaspoon. Right. And when you're baking these cakes and doing this icing, glaze, if you don't like a particular flavor, you can do double of another. Like you can do double vanilla, double lemon, double coconut to compensate for the one that you're going to omit. Like I'm not a big rum fan, so I would do like double vanilla instead of doing the rum. So now I have all of the extracts added. And now I'm going to mix it with my spoon. And I'm just going to not touch the bottom. I should have got my wooden spoon, but that's okay. Things don't always go as planned. Okay, so then once you've gotten the sugar and the water somewhat mixed, of course, the sugar's going to settle out. This is a heterogeneous mixture, not a homogeneous. So then I'm going to place this on the eye. I'm going to place it on medium, which is between 4 and 5. And I'm going to let this heat up. And you know, if you know anything about sugar and water, you know that there's a ratio that you can add and you can make homemade syrup, okay? I'm going to make this glaze on the same level. It's just that it's not going to turn brown. I'm not going to allow it to cook that long. I just simply want this to thicken just enough to coat the cake when I add it to it. I don't want it to be brown, burnt, candied, caramelized, or any of that. I just simply want to heat it up enough to dissolve the sugar in the water, and then of course the flavors are going to be enhanced. And so then I'll transfer the cake to the cake plate, and I'll pour this over the top while the cake is still hot. So I'll place you on a brief pause while I clean up. Hello everyone, the glaze is ready, and I'm just going to simply drizzle it on the cake. And this is a really good glaze, and it also helps to keep the cake moist. I've had customers who said this cake has stayed moist, even a 5 flavor. I've done it with this same type of glaze, and they say it stayed moist for like 2 weeks. Of course, the cake in my house won't last for 2 weeks, but and that's always good to know. Okay. So the cake is now glazed. It is still cooling because it's not really completely cool to room temperature. And this is the final product. And this again is a 7 flavored pound cake. Okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining me on today's bake. Again, my name is Cassie. I am the chef behind all the masterpieces at Cassie's Kitchen Creations. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Click the thumbs up. That says you like the videos that I'm producing. I guess I can add that to my repertoire as well. So click the thumbs up. That is just for logarithm, where it actually, you know, presents your videos so that other viewers can see it. Also, please leave a comment or a suggestion. Comments can be positive or negative. However, negatives I don't address, but I do encourage the positive. And also, if you have a comment about anything, a suggestion, please feel free to leave it in the comment section. If you like any of the recipes, please send me an email at cassieskitchencreations@gmail.com. I'll provide it for you. They're just very long, and there's a lot of things that I do that I don't really share because these are my recipes, and I don't care to publish them all on the channel. Right. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you guys had a wonderful Easter Sunday, and I will see you guys on the next bake, cook, we'll see. Leave it in the comments what you think it's going to be.